always thought bad news came through email these days. That's why when my phone rang at 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday and I saw my boss's name on the screen, my stomach dropped. No one calls with good news anymore, especially not your boss. My name is Clara, and that call changed everything. Clara, I need you to listen carefully, Richard said, his voice unusually tight. The firm is declaring bankruptcy. Effective immediately. I'm so sorry, but we're letting everyone go. I gripped my desk, staring at the family photo of Derek and me from our vacation in Hawaii last year. This is a joke, right? I wish it were. The SEC is already here. Pack up your personal items and leave your security badge with reception. Again, I'm truly sorry. The line went dead before I could respond. Around me, similar conversations were happening. The usually bustling trading floor of Jensen & Mills investment firm turned into a scene of chaos and disbelief. My colleague Sarah was already crying at her desk, mascara running down her cheeks as she clutched her phone. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, the nervous whispers, the closed-door meetings, the way our CEO had been dodging quarterly reviews. But I'd been too focused on proving myself, on living up to my parents' sacrifices for my education. Now here I was, boxing up 5 years of my life into a cardboard container meant for printer paper. My hands shook as I texted Derek. Lost my job. Firm went bankrupt. Coming home early. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Finally, damn. That sucks. I'm heading out to meet some clients. We'll talk tonight. Something about his response felt off, but I was too numb to analyze it. Derek had been meeting clients a lot lately, even though his real estate business wasn't doing great. I'd been carrying us financially for months, something he'd grown increasingly bitter about. As I walked to my car, clutching my sad little box of belongings, my mother's words from last week echoed in my head. Clara, honey! Something's not right with Derek. A woman knows these things. I dismissed her concerns then. Mom had always been overprotective since Dad passed, and Derek was just going through a rough patch. We all were. But now, with my career in shambles and our savings about to take a massive hit, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Derek's distant behavior than just wounded pride. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Sorry about Jensen & Mills. Heard the news. Let's grab coffee and talk opportunities? V. I didn't know any V, and something about the timing felt strange. I clicked on the number, hoping for a contact photo, but there was none. Just another mystery to add to this disaster of a day. The drive home was a blur. I kept thinking about the mortgage, our plans to start a family next year, the renovation we'd just started on the kitchen. Everything we'd built was balanced on my income, on my stability. Derek's commission-based earnings weren't enough to keep us afloat. I pulled into our driveway at 10:30 a.m., hours before I'd normally be home. Derek's car was gone, even though his client meeting wasn't supposed to be until afternoon. Another detail that didn't quite fit. As I unlocked the front door, I noticed something else odd. The house smelled like perfume, not my usual vanilla scent, but something floral and expensive. And there, on the entryway table, was a woman's earring I'd never seen before. My mother's warning didn't seem so paranoid anymore. That earring haunted me for hours as I sat at our kitchen island, staring at it like it might suddenly confess all of Derek's secrets. I'd placed it dead center on the granite countertop, its crystal pendant catching the afternoon light. The house felt too quiet, too empty, like it was holding its breath. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Have you eaten anything today? She asked before I could even say hello. I'm not hungry. I picked up the earring, turning it over. Mom, remember what you said about Derek last week? Oh, honey, what happened? I told her everything, the firm's collapse, Derek's strange behavior, and finally the earring. She listened without interrupting, which told me exactly how worried she was. Mom always had opinions to share. I'm coming over, she said finally. No, don't. He'll be home soon to talk tonight like he promised. I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. I need to handle this myself. Clara Jensen, you don't have to handle everything yourself. That's what got you into this mess, always being the strong one, the responsible one, while Derek. Well, Derek what, Mom? Well, Derek coasts on your success and apparently can't keep his pants on. The truth of her words stung. I'd been making excuses for Derek's behavior for months. His networking events that ran late into the night. The mysterious charges on our joint credit card at restaurants I'd never heard of. The new cologne he'd started wearing. The front door clicked open. I quickly pocketed the earring. Mom, I have to go. Derek walked in, looking surprised to see me. He was wearing a crisp blue button-down I didn't recognize, and that new cologne filled the air. Hey, I thought we were talking tonight? Surprise, I said flatly. I thought maybe we could talk now, since you're clearly not with clients. He loosened his tie, avoiding my eyes. I had a cancellation. Funny, because I had quite a day myself. Lost my job, found something interesting at home. I pulled out the earring. Know anything about this? Color drained from his face. For a moment, he looked like he might deny it, but then his expression hardened. It's not what you think. Really? 'Cause I think another woman has been in our house. I think you've been lying to me. I think, my voice cracked and I hated myself for it. I think you're having an affair. You want to talk about lies? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. How about how you've been making me feel like a failure for the past year? Always talking about your big promotion, your bonus, how you're carrying us financially. That's not fair. I've only ever supported you. Supported me? You've been suffocating me. And now you've lost everything and you're trying to blame me for moving on? The words hit like a physical blow. Moving on? So you admit it? His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and I caught a glimpse of the name, Vanessa. That's her, isn't it? The mysterious V who texted me about job opportunities. Pieces were falling into place. How long, Derek? 6 months, he said quietly. She works in real estate too. She understands me. I thought about all those nights I'd worked late trying to secure our future. All the times I'd defended him to my mother. All the sacrifices I'd made for us. And he'd been with her the whole time. Get out, I whispered. Clara, get out. I grabbed the earring and threw it at him. Bounced off his chest and skittered across the floor. Go to her. Go understand each other somewhere else. He hesitated, then turned and walked out. The door closed with a soft click that somehow hurt more than if he'd slammed it. My phone lit up with another text from that unknown number from Vanessa. I hope you understand. It's better this way. I stared at those words until they blurred, feeling something shift inside me. Understanding? Oh, they'd understand all right. They'd understand exactly what happens when you underestimate someone with nothing left to lose. I didn't mean to hack into Derek's phone. Not really. But when he came back the next morning to grab some things while I was supposedly at a job interview, he left his laptop open. The laptop I'd bought him last Christmas. The laptop that still had my saved passwords, including the one for our phone carrier's website. 6 months of text messages between him and Vanessa loaded onto my screen. My hands shook as I scrolled through their conversations, each message like a knife to the gut. Your wife's firm going under is the perfect opportunity, Vanessa had written just yesterday. Now to won't feel so. Financially inferior. Derek's response made me physically ill. Clara's always looked down on me. Time she learns what it feels like to lose everything. I was still staring at the screen when the front door opened. Derek walked in, stopping cold when he saw me at his laptop. You're not supposed to be here, he said. Funny. I was just thinking the same about Vanessa last month in Cabo. I turned the screen toward him, showing a photo of them on a beach. Nice vacation. Did you use our joint credit card for that too? He's facidarkened. You had no right. No right? I paid for everything. The mortgage, the bills, this laptop, your failing business. It's not failing. He slammed his hand on the desk, making me jump. Vanessa and I have big plans. We're merging our real estate businesses. I laughed, a hollow sound. Is that what you're calling it? You don't understand. You never understood. Always so focused on your precious career. While you focused on screwing your younger colleague? The words tasted bitter. Tell me, does Vanessa know about the 3 failed businesses before real estate? Or the gambling debt I paid off 2 years ago? His expression shifted from anger to something darker. You promised never to mention that. Yeah, well, you promised to be faithful. Guess we're both liars. He stepped closer, his cologne, her cologne choice I now realized, filling my nostrils. You want to play it this way? Fine. But remember, I know things too. Like how you fudged those investment reports last quarter. My blood ran cold. I never. Please. You think I didn't notice the late-night spreadsheet adjustments? The creative accounting you mentioned to your boss? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Wonder what the SEC would think about that. You'd really try to destroy me? After everything? You destroyed yourself, Clara. I'm just making sure you know your place. The Derek I thought I knew vanished in that moment, replaced by this stranger wearing his face. I thought about the text messages, about Vanessa's smug certainty that I'd lose everything. Get out, I whispered. Gladly. But first, he pulled out his phone and showed me a screen recording of my carrier account login. Thanks for the evidence of cybercrime. It might come in handy during the divorce. He left me there, surrounded by the wreckage of our marriage and the realization that the man I'd loved had been planning my downfall while sleeping in our bed. My phone buzzed, another text from Vanessa. Heard you've been snooping. Not very professional. But then again, neither is cooking the books, right? Face blowing a kiss. I sat there for a long time, reading and rereading their messages. They thought they had me cornered. The failed businesswoman. The unemployed fraud. The stupid wife who never saw it coming. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I hadn't spent 5 years in investment banking without learning how to spot patterns, how to follow money trails, how to find secrets. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Insurance. Then I started digging into Derek and Vanessa's real estate dealings. If they wanted to play dirty, they'd learn that sometimes the cornered prey is the most dangerous. My mother called again, but I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't talk now. I was too busy planning how to make them understand exactly what they'd unleashed. After 3 days of digging through real estate records and transaction histories, my eyes were burning, but I'd found something. Several somethings, actually. The kind of somethings that made Derek's threat about my accounting look like a parking ticket. My mother had been calling hourly. I finally answered on her 15th try. I'm selling the house, I said before she could start. I need somewhere to stay for a while. Of course you do, honey. But first, you need to shower and eat something that isn't coffee. I glanced at my reflection in the laptop screen. My hair was a mess, and I was still wearing the same clothes from 3 days ago. I'm fine. You're not fine. I'm coming over. 20 minutes later, she walked in with groceries and that look she gets when she's about to fix everything. She stopped short when she saw the papers spread across the dining room table. Clara, what is all this? Pointed to a stack of documents. Evidence. Derek and Vanessa have been running a real estate fraud scheme. They've been flipping properties through shell companies, inflating values, and I stopped at her blank expression. It's bad, Mom. Really bad. She set down the groceries. And what exactly do you plan to do with this information? I don't know, Tet. I did know, but I couldn't tell her. Couldn't admit how much I wanted them to hurt like I was hurting. She picked up one of the papers, frowning. This is dated 8 months ago. Before he started sleeping with her? Yeah. Turns out the affair wasn't the beginning of their partnership. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. They'd been planning this for over a year. My phone buzzed, another text from Vanessa. Dinner at Marino's tonight? Your favorite table. Don't worry, we'll take good care of your reservation. My hand shook as I showed Mom the message. Marino's was where Derek had proposed, where we'd celebrated every anniversary. Of course they'd go there. I have to sell the house, I repeated. They're trying to break me and I can't. I can't stay here with all these memories. Mom sat beside me, pushing aside some papers. Clara, revenge won't fix this. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival. I pulled up an email on my laptop. The SEC is already investigating the firm's collapse. One anonymous tip about Derek and Vanessa's scheme would destroy them, she finished. And possibly you too. Have you thought about that? I had. I'd thought about nothing else for 3 days. They're already trying to destroy me. At least this way. At least this way what? You all go down together. She grabbed my hands. You're better than this. Am I? Because right now I feel like the stupid wife who didn't see what was happening right in front of her, who worked 60-hour weeks while her husband was building a new life with someone else. You're my daughter, she said firmly. And I didn't raise you to let anyone make you doubt yourself. My phone buzzed again. A photo this time. Derek and Vanessa at our table in Marino's, his hand on hers, both smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Making new memories, Red Heart." Mom saw my face and grabbed the phone before I could respond. Enough. Pack a bag. You're coming home with me. But the evidence. We'll still be here tomorrow. She started gathering the papers into a folder. Right now, you need distance. Perspective. I need justice, I whispered. Justice and revenge aren't the same thing, honey. She touched my cheek. And right now, you can't tell the difference. She was right, of course. But as I packed a bag, I copied all the evidence onto a USB drive. Just in case. 'Cause while Mom was right about revenge not fixing anything, she was wrong about one thing. I could absolutely tell the difference between justice and revenge. I wanted both. I wasn't supposed to be home when Derek came to get his things. That was the agreement. But agreements meant nothing anymore, which is why I was sitting in the kitchen when he walked in with Vanessa. They froze in the doorway, Derek's hands still on the small of her back. She was prettier in person than in photos, younger too. She wore a cream blazer that probably cost more than my first car. Clara, Derek said, recovering first. We thought you'd be at your mother's. Clearly. I gestured to the manila envelope on the counter. Don't worry, I was just leaving. But first, I have something for you both. Vanessa stepped forward, all confident smiles. Actually, we have something for you too. She pulled out a stack of papers. The divorce agreement. Derek's lawyer drafted it. I picked up my envelope instead. You might want to hold off on that. I slid out the documents I'd gathered, spreading them across the counter like playing cards. Interesting property portfolio you two have built. Lots of shell companies. Lots of creative financing. Color drained from Derek's face. Vanessa's smile flickered but held. What is this supposed to be? She asked, but her voice wavered. Insurance. I tapped one particular document. This one's my favorite. The Wilson property. The one you flipped 3 times through different shell companies to inflate the value? That's textbook fraud. Derek stepped forward, his face dark. You're bluffing. Am I? 'Cause I have copies of everything. Bank transfers, shell company registrations, all of it. Dating back to before you two even started sleeping together. I met Vanessa's eyes. He didn't tell you I was good with numbers, did he? Her perfect smile cracked. Derek, she's trying to manipulate us, he said, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Clara, think about what you're doing. I have 4 days. I stood up, gathering the documents. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tear up that divorce agreement and have your lawyer draft a new one. One that doesn't try to screw me out of everything I've earned. Vanessa laughed, but it sounded hollow. Or what? You'll turn us in? You'll go down too. Your firm. My firm's already down. I have nothing left to lose. I smiled and it felt dangerous. But you too? You have everything to lose. Derek moved suddenly, reaching for the documents, but I was faster. I stepped back, holding them against my chest. Don't, I warned. Copies are already with my lawyer. And the SEC's anonymous tip line is just one click away. You wouldn't, Derek said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. The wife you knew wouldn't. But she died the day you started screwing your business partner. Vanessa grabbed Derek's arm, her confident facade crumbling. We need to talk. Now. I watched them huddle in the corner, whispering furiously. Power dynamic had shifted, and we all knew it. When they finally turned back, Derek looked defeated. What do you want? He asked. Everything I'm entitled to. And one more thing. I pulled out my phone, showing them the photo they'd sent from Marino's. Stay away from our places. Make new memories somewhere else. They left without the divorce papers, Vanessa's heels clicking angrily on the hardwood. As the door closed, my hands started shaking. I sank into a chair, adrenaline giving way to nausea. My phone buzzed, Mom checking in. I ignored it, staring instead at the documents scattered across the counter. I had what I wanted, leverage, power, the upper hand. So why did victory taste so bitter? Because revenge wasn't supposed to feel this empty. 'Cause somewhere between discovering their scheme and using it against them, I'd become someone I didn't recognize. But as I gathered the documents, tucking them safely away, I realized something else. Sometimes becoming someone new isn't about choice. Sometimes it's about survival. And I intended to survive. The salon wasn't my idea. Mom practically dragged me there, insisting I needed a change. New look, new start, she said, as if a haircut could fix everything that was broken inside me. I hadn't planned on Linda Cooper changing my life. She was cutting my hair when Derek and Vanessa walked in. Course they did. Because the universe wasn't done punishing me yet. Clara. Linda's scissors paused mid-snip. You know them? I caught Derek's reflection in the mirror, watched him whisper something to Vanessa that made her laugh. They were putting on a show and I was the audience. Unfortunately, I managed. Linda must have seen something in my face because she stepped between me and the mirror, blocking my view. Want me to tell them we're fully booked? But Vanessa was already sashaying over, her perfect hair bouncing with each step. Clara! What a surprise. Love the new. Look! Her pause said everything about what she thought of my half-cut hair. Vanessa. My voice sounded hollow. Bit far from your usual salon, isn't it? Oh, Derek and I are looking at property in the area. For our new office. She smiled, all teeth. We're expanding. My hands gripped the armrests. The evidence I had on their fraud was my only leverage, but it felt heavier every day. The weight of knowing, of holding their fate, was exhausting. How nice for you both. Linda's voice could have frozen hell. Now, if you'll excuse us. Actually, Derek stepped forward, we need to talk, Clara. About the documents. Nothing to talk about. Imetis ice in the mirror. Unless you're ready to sign the new agreement? Vanessa's smile slipped. We could ruin you too, you know. One anonymous tip about your creative accounting. Ladies. Linda's voice cut through the tension. This is a place of business. Take your drama elsewhere. But Vanessa wasn't finished. A salon, Clara? Really? This is what the mighty investment banker has been reduced to. She leaned closer, dropping her voice. You know what's sad? He never would have looked at me if you hadn't made him feel so inadequate. Something snapped inside me. I stood up, the cape falling to the floor, hair half finished. You want the truth, Vanessa? He made himself feel inadequate. I supported him through 3 failed businesses, paid off his gambling debts, and kept his secrets. But sure, tell yourself whatever helps you sleep at night. Clara, Derek started, but I cut him off. You want those documents? Fine. I'll send everything to the SEC. Let them sort out who did what. Because I'm done protecting either of you. The salon had gone silent. Every client, every stylist was watching. Vanessa's face had lost its smug certainty, and Derek looked scared. You wouldn't, he said, but his voice shook. Try me. I grabbed my purse, hands trembling. Now get out. They left, but not before Vanessa turned back. This isn't over. No, I agreed. It's just beginning. The moment they were gone, my legs gave out. Linda caught me before I hit the floor, guiding me to a private room in the back. Breathe, she said, holding my hands. Just breathe. I can't do this anymore. The words tumbled out. The evidence, the threats, all of it. I'm so tired. Then stop fighting. Linda's voice was gentle but firm. Let it go. If I do, they win. No, honey. If you keep letting them control your life, they win. She squeezed my hands. You want revenge? Build something better than what they destroyed. Show them what they lost. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Her salon, her success, her strength. How? My voice cracked. Start by letting me finish your hair. She smiled. Then we'll talk about that business degree of yours and how this place could use some financial expertise. I touched my half-finished hair, feeling something shift inside me. Maybe Mom was right. Maybe a new look could be a new start. But first, I had some documents to send to the SEC. The SEC investigation hit the local news on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, Derek and Vanessa's real estate empire was crumbling. I watched it unfold from behind the salon's reception desk, where I'd been helping Linda reorganize her business finances. I didn't expect them to show up together, but they did. This time, Vanessa wasn't smiling. You vindictive bitch, she spat, storming toward the desk. You ruined everything. Mrs. Peterson, our regular client getting her weekly blowout, lowered her magazine. Watch your language, young lady. This is a respectable establishment. Stay out of this, old woman. Derek's voice was cold. He turned to me. We need to talk. Privately. Nothing to talk about. I kept typing on the laptop, refusing to meet his eyes. The SEC has everything they need. Everything they need? Vanessa laughed hysterically. You mean everything you fabricated? Derek, tell her what your lawyer said. I finally looked up. About what? The Wilson property? Or the shell companies? Or maybe about the offshore accounts? Derek's face went pale. How did you know about those? I didn't. Until now. I smiled, and it felt genuine for the first time in weeks. Thanks for confirming them, though. Mrs. Peterson set down her magazine completely now, watching with undisguised interest. Other clients were pretending to read magazines while clearly eavesdropping. You're bluffing, Vanessa said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Am I? Check your phone. They both pulled out their phones. I watched their faces as they saw the breaking news. Local real estate scandal deepens. Federal investigation uncovers offshore accounts. This isn't possible, Derek whispered. You taught me well, honey. I turned my laptop around, showing them the spreadsheets I'd been working on. But not about real estate fraud. About how to keep digging until you find the truth. You'll go down too, Vanessa threatened, but her voice shook. Your creative accounting was all documented and reported to the SEC weeks ago. Linda stepped forward, arms crossed. Clara's been helping me clean up my books, making everything legitimate. Unlike some people. Mrs. Peterson stood up, her half-done hair forgotten. I knew something was fishy about those property deals. My Harold, God rest his soul, always said that new development of yours seemed too good to be true. Stay out of this, Derek snapped, but Mrs. Peterson wasn't finished. You know what else Harold said? That Clara was too good for you. Guess he was right about that too. Other clients murmured in agreement. Derek looked around, suddenly aware of his audience, of how this would play in our small community. This isn't over, he growled, grabbing Vanessa's arm. Actually, it is. I stood up. The SEC has everything. Police probably have questions about those offshore accounts. And your lawyer. I smiled. He called me this morning. Seems he's cooperating to save himself. Vanessa jerked away from Derek. You said we were protected. You said. He says a lot of things, doesn't he? I interrupted. Funny how none of them turn out to be true. They left separately, Vanessa practically running to her car while Derek stood outside, looking lost. For a moment, I saw the man I'd married, vulnerable, uncertain, human. Then he straightened his shoulders and walked away without looking back. The salon erupted in chatter. Mrs. Peterson patted my hand. Good riddance to bad rubbish, dear. Linda squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I looked at the spreadsheets on my laptop. Legitimate business numbers for a legitimate business. No schemes, no fraud, just honest work and real growth. Yeah, I said and meant it. I really am. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Saw the news. Proud of you, honey. I smiled, thinking about how revenge had stopped being the point somewhere along the way. This wasn't about hurting them anymore. It was about choosing who I wanted to be. And I chose to be better. 1 year later, I stood in front of Clarity Beauty Academy's gleaming windows, watching the morning sun catch our new sign. Inside, Linda was training our first class of students, women rebuilding their lives just like I had. Quite a change from investment banking, Mom said, joining me with 2 coffee cups. Better change. I took 1 cup, breathing in the familiar scent of her morning brew. The bank called again yesterday. She raised an eyebrow. The consulting offer? I nodded. The irony wasn't lost on me, being headhunted by the same industry I'd left behind. They want me to help other businesses avoid what happened with Jensen and Mills. And I told them I'd consult part-time, around the academy's schedule. Mom smiled, the proud one she used to give me when I brought home straight A's. Before she could respond, Mrs. Peterson's distinctive voice carried from inside. Clara! The reporter's here. The local business journal was doing a piece on successful women entrepreneurs. Linda had insisted I be interviewed too, even though the academy was barely 6 months old. Coming! I turned to Mom. Want to stick around? Actually, there's something you should see first. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This came to the house yesterday. I recognized Derek's handwriting immediately. Postmark was from California, where he'd moved after taking a plea deal. Vanessa, last I heard, was in Florida trying to rebuild her own life. I haven't opened it, Mom said quietly. I know. I turned the envelope over, feeling its weight. You think I should? I think you're strong enough now to decide for yourself. Inside the salon, I could hear Linda teaching our students about business plans and financial management. Mrs. Peterson was probably adding her own colorful commentary. These women had become my family, my support system, my future. I opened the letter. Clara, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing can fix what I broke. But you deserve to hear it anyway. I'm sorry. Not just for the affair or the fraud, but for making you doubt yourself. You were never the problem. I was. I'm getting help now. Therapy, Gamblers Anonymous, the works. Not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know that losing you made me finally face myself. I saw the article about your academy online. You look happy. You look free. I'm glad. Derek. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it back into its envelope. You okay? Mom touched my arm. Yeah. I smiled, surprising myself by meaning it. I really am. The door chimed as Mrs. Peterson stuck her head out. Clara Jensen, if you don't get in here, I'm telling the reporter about the time you threatened to audit Derek's offshore accounts. That's not exactly how it happened, I laughed, but Mrs. Peterson was already heading back inside, regaling anyone who'd listen with her slightly embellished version of events. You know, Mom said, when you were little, you used to say you wanted to change the world. I looked through the window at our students, women learning not just about beauty, but about business, about independence, about second chances. Linda caught my eye and winked, pointing at her watch. Maybe I am, I said. Just not the way I expected. I tucked Derek's letter into my bag, next to the bank's consulting contract and our academy's expansion plans. Each piece of paper represented a different path. The past I'd survived, the future I was building, the choices that were finally truly mine. Ready! Mom held the door. I took one last look at our sign, Clarity Beauty Academy, where beauty meets business. Where my revenge had transformed into something better, purpose. Ready! The door chimed as we walked in together, and I felt that familiar surge of certainty. This was where I belonged. Not because life had forced me here, but because I'd chosen it. Chosen myself. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.